Seneta Moses Wetangula yuko mbele ya kamati hiyo akiwa anatoa kauli zake. Hebu tumsikize.
Committee to conduct a validation of the task force report through relevant stakeholder consultations and to propose policy, administrative, statutory and constitutional implementation mechanisms of the task force report. We all know the 9 thematic areas that are set out in the BBI gazettement, and following an in-house review as well as consultations with its members, and Mr. Chairman, our party held a retreat in Lake Nakuru National Park and went through painstakingly the entire report from A to Z, and we came up with several issues that we want to highlight. The same include divisive elections, ethnic antagonism and competition, representation, presidential versus parliamentary system of government, inclusivity, devolution and shared prosperity, corruption, and regional integration of the East African region, which we have added that may not have been part of your terms of reference. Before we make our recommendations on the above issues, Ford Kenya wishes to make the following observations on emerging concerns regarding the BBI process. Following your successful undertaking of the first phase of the BBI process, where your committee played a crucial role, and the subsequent gazettement of this validation process, Ford Kenya calls upon the task force to take firm charge of the process, as was the case before. We call upon the task force to ensure that the ordinary Mwananchi, the Wanjiku, the Nafula, the Atieno, remain the central player and key driver of this process. The executive and political class must not be allowed, and this we emphasize, must not be allowed to hijack this process and turn it into a political campaign and contest for the next elections. This will make it look like a short-term fix for long-term challenges, and thus will not solve the problems the country has. Because if our eyes are on 2022, what happens the day after? And we want this process to bestow onto this country a constitution that can give leadership and direction for the next 20, 30, 40 years to come. Mr. Chairman, Ford Kenya also calls for the following improvements to the content and language of the report. In your earlier report, you used some very difficult English words that the ordinary Mama Mboga may not understand. I'm happy that you have now translated the document into Kiswahili, and the ordinary person will be able to read and understand. Mr. Chairman, Ford Kenya finds that the most pressing needs for the people of Kenya today includes high cost of living with increasing poverty leading to growing crime, growing youth unemployment levels, an unsustainable public debt, a harsh business environment, especially for small enterprises, and dwindling standards of public service. It has become increasingly difficult for many households to put food on their table. Concerns over the phenomena such as the locust invasion as well as rising health concerns over the coronavirus place additional stress on the Kenyan society. Consequently, the family unit is under threat, and our general peace and security as a nation is also in jeopardy. We make the following proposals, Mr. Chairman, on the thematic areas we have picked, and we start with the issue of divisive elections. Mr. Chairman, the worry in this country is not just limited to the voting exercise. This begins with the entire process of registration and issuance of national identity cards. Deliberate actions by the executive to deny certain regions an opportunity to access ID cards in a timely and expeditious manner is a matter of concern. Mr. Chairman, you used to be our PC in Western, and my colleague Amos Wako can tell you, for frontier counties like Bungoma, Busia, Trans Nzoia, Pokot, getting an ID is a nightmare. For you to access an ID, and in Kenya today, an ID is virtually everything. You cannot access social safety net resources from the state without an ID. You can't open a bank account. You cannot enter a supermarket. You cannot do anything without an ID. And yet, when you come to those areas, and many other frontier areas, including where you, Chairman, come from, to get an ID, you are asked questions that no ordinary person may even remember. You are asked even who your great-great-grandfather was, a title deed, and all manner of things which are not asked in other parts of the country. And these levels of discrimination lead to denial of the right to vote, because you can't register as a voter without an ID. The entire voter management exercise, including voter education and awareness, needs to be relooked at. Of equal concern is the perceived executive interference in the voter management process, including the process of procurement of voter materials, actual voting exercise, tallying, and result transmission.